Who are the top 10 Democrats who became Republicans? That's the topic of today's video. Hi, I'm Allie Richards. Did you know that many of today's top Republicans started off as Democrats? We'll take a look at 10 prominent personalities who converted from left to right. Number 10, Rick Perry. Everyone knows that shrinking the government is a basic Republican platform. However, not all Republicans know exactly which parts of the government they want to reduce. Former governor of Texas, Rick Perry, ran for president in 2011, promising to get rid of 3 major federal agencies. In a famous debate moment, he actually forgot one of those 3, which resulted in an embarrassing gaffe for his campaign. Before having a successful stint as governor, Rick Perry actually started off his political career as a Democrat and supported Al Gore in the 1980s. Number 9, Dr. Thomas Sowell. America's foremost black intellectual, Tom Sowell, began life as an avowed Marxist before becoming an influential economist on the right. A graduate of Harvard and Columbia, Dr. Sowell had written best-selling books on race, culture, economics, and political philosophy. He attributed his time working at the Department of Labor for his eventual conversion. Sowell noted that as the minimum wage increased, employment kept going down. Employees in the department, however, were more concerned with getting paid from the government than from determining the effect of the minimum wage on the poor. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has credited Dr. Sowell for being a major influence in his judicial philosophy. Number 8, Dr. Friedrich Hayek. In his famous book, The Road to Serfdom, Austrian economist Friedrich Hayek makes the case for human freedom and taking economic decision-making out of the hands of the state. Initially leaning toward democratic socialism, Dr. Hayek went on to become a passionate advocate for classical liberalism. His work went on to impact scores of thinkers and both the Republican and Libertarian movements within the United States. Number 7, Dr. Milton Friedman. A luminary of the right, Dr. Milton Friedman was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1976. Rejecting the theories of John Maynard Keynes, Friedman went on to become the modern patron saint of free market ideas. He has written that he converted from his formerly leftist views shortly after the end of World War II, calling those views naive and contradicted by evidence. Dr. Friedman went on to lead the Chicago School of Economics, which has produced the greatest number of Nobel Prize winners in that field. Number 6, Susanna Martinez, chairwoman of the Republicans Governors Association and the 31st governor of New Mexico. Susanna Martinez became the first Hispanic female governor in 2011. As a district attorney in New Mexico, Governor Martinez committed herself to helping victims of sexual abuse and domestic violence and advancing women's causes. She credits her switch to a wide-ranging conversation over lunch with 2 Republicans, where she agreed with them on many issues. As governor, she has maintained some of the country's highest approval ratings and was floated as a vice presidential running mate on several occasions. Number 5. This entry on our list isn't an actual personality, but a group of people within the Republican Party. The Neoconservative movement has been ascendant on the right since the 1980s. Its major intellectuals are former leftists including Irving Kristol and Norman Podhoretz. Neocons were instrumental in making the case for the Iraq War and have faced some unpopularity as a result. This faction originated in the 1960s by Democrats disillusioned with the party's soft stance on totalitarian regimes and political radicalism. Number 4, Ben Carson. Before launching a lackluster presidential campaign, Ben Carson had been a famous neurosurgeon. At 33, Dr. Carson became America's youngest chief of pediatric neurosurgery at Johns Hopkins and went on to perform some of the world's most complicated medical operations. Carson was raised by a single mother who could hardly read and credits his religious upbringing for much of his success. Dr. Carson began listening to speeches by President Ronald Reagan before his transition to the right. He describes this experience as a pivotal moment in his life, as Democrats portrayed Reagan as evil and racist, but Carson viewed him as decent and patriotic. In at number 3, Condi Rice. At the 2000 Republican Convention, former Secretary of State Condi Rice explained her family's political history. In her speech, she said that the Democrats in Jim Crow, Alabama would not register her father to vote, but the Republicans did. Her mother was light-skinned and passed the poll test, but her dark-skinned father was turned away. After this disappointment, her father registered with the Republicans and became a lifelong member of the party. After voting for Jimmy Carter, Miss Rice was turned off by Carter's foreign policy and admired Ronald Reagan's more robust approach. Fluent in Russian and a classical pianist, Miss Rice returned to Stanford University to continue her academic career. Republican heavyweight Rudy Giuliani comes in at number 2. Who would have guessed that the former prosecutor and New York City mayor was a Democrat? Despite reports of his father being involved in organized crime, Giuliani became famous for prosecuting criminals from mobsters to Wall Street bankers. After leading New York City through the tragedy of September 11th, he ran unsuccessfully for president. Stephen Colbert had some fun when he suggested that viewers Google Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, drag queen, motorboat. Don't ask. The number 1 most famous transformation is former President Ronald Reagan. Reagan campaigned for Harry Truman in 1948 and supported other Democratic candidates up to the 1950s. However, his views became increasingly conservative, and by the time of his election as president, he had emerged as the chief conservative politician of his generation. His outlook overshadows the Republican Party to this day, and he is still considered the preeminent modern statesman. Well, that's our list of the top 10 left-to-right personalities of our time. Do you think we left anyone out? Let us know in the comments below.